Welcome everyone. Anyone not familiar with how we operate at these committee meetings? There's some emergency procedure details up there on the screen. Can I ask you to switch your mobile phones off if you haven't already done so like me? And yeah, we'll start the meeting very shortly. Brady, you know the drill about, keeping yourself visible and so on if you zoom, as you're zooming in.
Sure, thank you.
All right, if we... All right, if we could start the live stream, that would be great, thanks. Okay, welcome to the meeting of Komiti Hanganga, the Infrastructure and Regulatory Committee on the 9th of May. Welcome to members of the public watching the meetings on Council's Facebook page. As is always, we'll start with an opening karakia and invite everyone to join with me. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, e he ake ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei mauri ora. Thank you. Apologies, I have an apology from Councillor Brown and Mayor Barry may need to leave the meeting early. So I'll move the apology from Councillor Brown be accepted and leave of absence be granted. Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Mitchell, thank you. All those in favour say aye. No, declare that carried. Now we have two people speaking to us in public comment. Welcome to Matthew Young and David Tripp on behalf of the Hutt Cycle Network, speaking to item number 9, which is our retrospective approval for Council's submission to the draft government policy statement on land transport. Welcome both, familiar faces to us.
And I'll be speaking on behalf of Doctors for Active Safe Transport, so 2 for the price of 1.
Look at that, excellent.
Kia ora, thank you for having us today. As you've said, I come speaking on behalf of the Hutt Cycle Network and come just to remind you that Hutt City Council has put a lot of effort into setting a strategic direction for transport in our city through the through the integrated transport strategy. And this is a strategy which has been much celebrated and that you are rightfully very proud of. Near the beginning of that, it says, quote, "As a city, we have the important goals of halving our emissions by 2030 and achieving net zero carbon emissions by 2050. Transport equates to 56% of total emissions in our city, so transformational change is required to achieve those goals. Our efforts need to focus on significant increases in walking and cycling rates, as well as public transport, and a significant reduction in single occupancy car use." Unfortunately, central government policy on transport is heading in an opposite, much more aggressive direction. The draft GPS for land transport that was consulted on throughout March cuts funding for public transport services and infrastructure. It cuts funding for rail. It puts significantly increased pressure on walking and cycling funding, and it puts inane restrictions on funding multimodal transport infrastructure. All of these things will make the outcomes sought in your transport strategy much more difficult to achieve. And so we were very surprised to read that your officers have submitted a highly supportive position on behalf of this council, including supporting the indicative funding plan. This representation from the council to central government represents to us a sudden, unsignalled, and frankly highly inappropriate shift away from the position that you've agreed with your community. It is possible to do these submissions well, to do them in a way that is balanced, that recognises the right of a new government to set its own direction and signals a willingness to cooperate with it, but also stands up for local priorities and the principle of devolved decision-making. And there were a number of great submissions that did go in from local and regional governments around the country, and I'll point you to the submission from our own regional transport committee. Their submission is one that we can be proud of. It stands up for action on climate change, it supports multimodal investment, and it highlights the terrible impacts the draft GPS would have on our public transport system. And it does this while also finding areas of agreement and identifying where cooperation is possible. Hutt City's submission, unfortunately, has none of this crucial balance. So we have a couple of asks. First of all, that you resolve not to retrospectively endorse this submission. And second, that you give us a bit of clarity around what the process is here. Who writes these submissions? Who signs off on them? Are they cited by elected members before being sent in? Why can this not come to public meetings before they're sent in? And what processes are there in place to ensure that any representations being made by this council are consistent with strategy which has already been set?
Thank you, Matt. David, did you want to speak now as well?
Yeah.
Yep,
Then you can
absolutely,
be more efficient for councillors to ask questions together. We're on a similar page.
Right.
Thank you for your time. On behalf of Doctors for Active Safe Transport, I'm completely confused about Council's submission on the government policy statement, the GPS. In your submission, you are supportive of the GTS, yet the GPS is in marked contrast to your own integrated transport strategy. Your transport strategy recognised the huge costs of our car-dependent transport system. In contrast, the GPS is a car-centric approach, despite the costs to our environment, our climate objectives, and the livability of our city. Your own transport strategy recognised the huge negative impact on our health of car dependence. In contrast, the GPS does not mention the increased rates of cancer, diabetes, and heart disease that will absolutely result from their plan. Your own transport strategy has as its first guiding principle that, quote, changes to our existing transport network should seek to make other modes of transport as appealing as travelling by private car, unquote. It recognises that if we continue to rely so much on our cars, our city is going to be hopelessly congested with another 20,000 people on board. In contrast, the GPS systematically and significantly reduces funding for public transport and active modes. Your integrated transport strategy is chalk and cheese with the GPS. Yet none of the above differences are noted in your submission. I realise that one should not bite the hand that feeds you. There's some niceties one must still observe when criticising the plans of your overlords, however dumb those ideas. My greater concern is that council itself is all at sea over where our transport system needs to be headed. We have your ITS. We have this comment somewhere else today. Next week we will be submitting on your long-term plan, which paints a different picture again. You and your team do not appear to have a clear game plan for transport, which is a real problem because transport is all about long-term investment. And without a game plan, our kids will inherit a mess. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Tripp. Councillors, any questions for either Matt or David? Mayor Barry.
Thanks for the public comment. Acknowledging that we don't go into great depth, but we certainly do in the submission point out that there is a lack of focus on public transport and what that potentially means for the Wellington region. I mean, you acknowledge that that is in the submission.
So the submission says that you support the indicative funding plan for the GPS, which cuts public transport funding for services and infrastructure.
The submission says we have, I mean, I can read it to you if you like. We would also like to see more certainty in the GPS over public transport investment for the Wellington region and funding to build resilience mitigation for the impact of our changing climate and initiatives to improve cycling options in urban areas in between cities. So we have acknowledged that issue, and I would agree with some of your comments. What we haven't done is then gone into a point by point, beyond that. Is that your concern? Or because you are suggesting we haven't raised that we have? Just want to make that clear.
I don't think you phrased it with any great clarity. You start off by saying actually completely the opposite. And other submissions that I've read have hit that balance much better than what this council has.
Could I just, I don't want to argue about this phrase or that phrase. I read your submission and was not struck at all by the fact that the GPS is the other extreme from your integrated transport strategy. They are documents that head in quite different directions across all their parameters. And I didn't get that sense at all from Hutt's comments, and therefore I was left wondering what you actually thought about transport.
What I want clarity on, though, because you have said that we have not mentioned it, and we have. So I just want clarity. You acknowledge that we have, but you feel as if we haven't made it strong enough and we haven't been in line with other more passionate submissions.
Could I return with a comment? And again, we're not going to get anywhere by blow, but you say on walking and cycling, using existing volumes of pedestrians and cyclists to forecast options to justify future investment would be supported. That is completely contrary to your ITS, which says we've got to create demand, dramatic increases in demand to meet any of our objectives. Whereas you've actually supported here a government approach that said, unless someone is doing this at the moment, we're not going to make any provision for them, which is the bottom line in the GPS. Yeah, difficult space. I don't want to argue word by word, but I think the tenor of your submission is one that is at odds with your ITS. Sorry, Matt, is there anything you wanted to say?
Just to note that I didn't say that your submission doesn't reference public transport at any point. If you think what I implied through my statement is that your submission doesn't reference public transport, then you must take the point that your submission implies that you're not backing your ITS.
I'm not going to get into a blow by blow, but I completely reject that. I mean, if this is how we communicate, fine.
Okay, any further questions for our two submitters? Thank you both. Thank you.
For your time.
Thank you very much for your comment. I'm going to move this item forward in the agenda so that we can deal with it while you're still here. Well, that's my intention. But first, I need to call for any conflict of interest declarations from councillors. All right, there's no conflict of interests. So in accordance with Standing Order 10.4, I'd like to accord precedence to business item number 10, retrospective approval for council's submission to the draft government policy statement on land transport 2024. And I don't know if John's not here. Paul Hewitt. Rona? Great. Thank you, Rona. Is there any information you'd like to give us in addition to what's in front of us regarding the submission?
Nothing additional, but perhaps some clarity around some of the statements being brought up
That would be
just
good.
now. So, yes, we do reference using current, the status quo to predict future use for walking and cycling, but it would actually be in a different way. So we'd look to support why or how we should grow our walking and cycling based on the low numbers, because there is actually a lack of or latent use at the moment. So we do need to continue with the walking and cycling plan, but we use the low numbers to actually, further support our case to actually grow in that area. So that's probably the clarity we needed there. And it does look like that, so maybe some more clarity. We could add another line actually how we would do that in our planning going forward. And I think that was it. Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions for Rona from councillors? Councillor Mitchell?
Thank you. I actually had highlighted the same line that was mentioned, that our council would support using existing volumes of pedestrians and cyclists. And now with the explanation, I understand what the intent of that was. I actually thought it was, didn't really fit with the previous line. We have experience of latent demand, that people aren't using our cycle network because they don't feel safe. What the government's proposing is, if people aren't cycling, it means we don't need to build cycleways, where I think we feel exactly the opposite. So I think that, for me, means that we wouldn't support using existing numbers of cyclists to determine where cycleways should go. So I think that there was definitely some clarity missing in there. Just in terms of process, this submission has already been submitted. I don't know if we can amend it and resubmit it and ask that an adjustment be considered, but I certainly think that clarifying that passage in particular would be useful.
Know whether that's possible, Rona, to for something that's already been submitted to amend it? The final government policy statement, land transport's due out, I think, in July, so probably they're well into considering submissions already, I would have thought.
The consultation period has closed. I can find out a bit more just to get an actual answer. Yeah.
Can I suggest what we do is we let it lay as it is, but we follow up with a clarification email to the process to advise on that, rather than trying to amend a current and resubmit something. I think that's probably the best we can do, knowing how sort of the processes work in town.
Mayor Barry, you're not suggesting we don't. You're not suggesting we let this current recommendations in front of us lie on the table?
No. I'm saying we approve it as is.
Yep.
I mean, it's already been submitted in reality.
That's right.
But what we can do is, based on the feedback given at the meeting, is a follow-up email to provide that clarification.
Thank you. Rona, could you confirm this? There was quite a hurry. There was quite a tight time frame, I recall, to get this submission in.
It took us about 2 weeks, so it was tight. Yeah. Considering, how much, what was in there. Yeah.
There are no further, Councillor Mitchell?
Got the red light, here we go. And just in terms of process, it was asked in public comment about what the process was and whether elected members got to see this before it was submitted. Could you please clarify that for the public comment?
I'm not sure on that process. I'm sorry.
Okay, I can clarify it for you. This particular one was sent to elected members after it had been submitted because of the tight timeframes.
Although, for complete clarity, and I have to admit some fault here, I did miss an email at officers within days of it being due, being sent in. Officers sent me an email asking, as Chairman of Infrastructure, whether I had any views on it. I missed it. I was too late to respond to it, and the submission had already been sent, so I do admit some fault there. Councillor Tupou.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just clarification. A question of clarification is, because anything that's sort of discussed here may help with the interpretation of our submission. In fact, and I'm just wondering whether, because when I read that sentence, to me it can read either way, and I absolutely understand that when it says, the way I read it is, one way of reading it is because of the low usage, for lack of a better way to put it, that this justifies the need to increase investment in terms of walking and cycling. So I think it would be read either way, and I don't think we should get stuck in the weeds per se, Mr. Chair. Am I correct?
Correct, and it does say that we would need to justify why we would continue with walking and cycling. So that would be part of actually proving, using existing demand and improving why we should grow in the walking and cycling space. Yeah, like justify why we should continue. Yeah.
Mayor Barry.
Just to ask a question, I suppose it's probably obvious, the comments before got a little bit under my skin, and we will have an opportunity to have a chat later, so I think that's important. But do you just want to talk through the process of officers in putting this submission together? I mean, I'm of a mind that it's our job to be constructive with the government of the day, regardless of colour or agenda or priority. They are elected, that is their priority. But it is also important that, of course, we stand for what our priorities are in the city and how we can best advance them on behalf of our ratepayers. So do you want to just talk through the process of pulling this submission together and the thinking behind that when we think about our own priorities in this area?
So we looked at the other submissions that were being put through, Tai Tuara and other councils. And so we looked at everyone's sort of position and understanding that in general, we're a pretty green council, but that doesn't preclude us from, I guess, taking opportunities as they come, and the opportunities via the draft GPS that we've got at the moment that we can actually focus on things that perhaps we haven't really had time to do, which is maintenance. And I guess we've seen what's happened if we don't look at maintenance, for example, the water infrastructure. If we let that go with the transport, which we're pretty close to doing because we're a pretty lean team, it's kind of nice to actually see that we're being told by the government to actually focus on these things, and we're going to be supported by the funding that's been indicated is going to come our way. So yeah, we're a pretty green council. We've still got heaps of walking and cycling initiatives happening at the moment, quite a few, but yeah, other opportunities as they've come through were considered, and how, let's just leverage off what we've been given through the draft GPS. Yeah.
All right, thank you for that. So we have recommendations in front of us that we receive and note the submission on the GPS and transport, and we retrospectively approve it. I'll move that submission. Is there Councillor Stallinger has seconded? Does anyone want to make comment? Councillor Stallinger.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and apologies for being a couple of minutes late, and also to the submitters who I may have missed a few words of their submission. I had a good think about this because I pay a lot of attention to road investment and safety and infrastructure and the issues around, and I thought the officers had done a really good job of striking a good balance between our concerns for cycling, walking, public transport and so on, but also, as our Mayor suggested, the need not to go in too hard on that, but also respective of the other needs that we have for vehicular transport. And just so thank you. And just a final comment as a very regular cyclist. My safety is, I would say, even more dependent on the goodwill of motorists than it is of the infrastructure, because I'm always have to go on the roads at some point. And so I feel quite uncomfortable if motorists who I have to get in close proximity to feel that their needs are being underinvested in when cyclists are getting a substantial funding. So again, in that regard, I think a balance is very important. And again, just to emphasise, happy to second this because I think the officers have done well in that regard.
Thank you. Any further comment? Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, I would like to move an additional recommendation that our officers do follow up on this written submission, just to clarify our point of view around investment in walking and cycling. I think it's pretty clear we're talking about our understanding of what we wrote. What they wrote was that investment in walking and cycling should only take place where there is demonstrated volumes of pedestrians and cyclists already exist. They're talking about seeing numbers on roads already, not seeing no one on the roads. So if we submit in support of what they've proposed, we're submitting in support of not building cycleways unless there are already cyclists on the roads. I don't think that is our view as a council. That's not what's been explained to us by our officers. So I'd like to see a follow-up to this submission, go in and clarify our position on that particular statement.
And I'm sure that our officers have noted that. I'm not sure we need another recommendation along those lines. Like Rona is nodding her head that officers are going to take that on.
I'll confirm that we'll follow up with the email as suggested by the Mayor. Yep.
Any further comment? I'd just say I did take note that there were good submissions from Dr. Tripp and Matthew Young. I did note someone said that you don't bite the hand that feeds, and as the Mayor has explained well, there are some exciting things in that government policy transport that, for our city in terms of road maintenance and Cross Valley Connector. Perhaps we were too gentle in some of the comments about public transport and cycling. I'll leave it at that. I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Declare it carried. Thank you. And thank you again, Dr. Tripp. All right, we're moving back to item 5, which is the Infrastructure Acceleration Fund Project Report, page 9 of your agenda. Welcome, Eddie, Head of City Delivery, to speak to this item. I hope your youngster is better after the incident yesterday, the sporting incident. Just for the benefit of those who may be listening online, we had a very full and useful workshop on this topic yesterday, so they might be a little bit surprised at if there is not too many questions on what is a $174 million project, but that is the explanation. We had a good hour on this topic yesterday. But Eddie, is there anything from your report that you want to highlight, or anything additional you want to tell us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And yes, the son is pretty okay, so it was a sprained ankle. So he's in a bit of space. And also really good to hear that yesterday's conversation was really helpful. I think the team put all the effort into to try to explain how we came up with the options and any other technical details we need to explain. There's nothing else to add, but I just want to emphasize that we are on track for a delivery of the stage 1 by end of June, and we will be coming back, wrapping up the whole concept design, procurement strategy, any of the details, and a plan for next stage in sort of June, July. But look, what the options we are proposing for both wastewater and stormwater are best placed to meet those housing outcomes for which we have signed up with Kaingiora. So. But look, happy to, I'm expecting all the rest of the report is read, so happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Eddie. Are there any further questions for Councillor Mitchell?
Thank you. Just a question of delivery first. In the paper here, it talks about how Wellington Water has progressed, for example, the wastewater pipeline to a concept design stage, and then handed the project to us, to Hutt City Council. There's another note that the stormwater and wastewater schemes will be delivered by Hutt City Council, and the Eastern Hill Reservoir will be delivered by Wellington Water. In terms of delivery, I don't really understand why we as Hutt City Council are delivering those things. These are usually delivered by Wellington Water. Do we have the expertise in our teams, or who exactly will be delivering these projects for Hutt City Council?
I think this decision was at some stage made last year that these two projects will come back to Hutt City Council, stormwater and wastewater. I think understand there's a capacity issue. There is quite a big pipeline of works with Wellington Water, which they don't have capacity to deliver these. And knowing the IF funding was available and we need to move forward, the project will be delivered by the City Delivery Unit, and we will be employing specialist consultants and contractors to deliver that for us, for Hutt City Council.
So essentially it may be delivered by potentially the same contractors that Wellington Water would have used to deliver the same job.
We will be openly tendering the project, and whoever best places the bid will get the job. But yes, it's possible that might be the same supplier.
And is it considered that this approach is riskier than if Wellington Water were delivering it for us? Riskier for us as a council? Sorry,
I can't comment on that. I just understand that probably the option was given to Wellington Water, and just their suppliers and themselves don't have the capacity to deliver at this stage.
Thank you. The other question I had about was the target number of homes, 3,520. Are those homes intended to be delivered within the, what's the term used for it here, the zone of influence or elsewhere?
I think Lucy can help me with that question.
So the IF, the catchment for the IF is the entire valley floor because of the Eastern Hill Reservoir. So the 3,500 dwellings that is in the contract with Kaingaora can be located anywhere in the valley floor. Having said that, the central city is where we're doing the stormwater and the wastewater, so that's where we will be working hardest to get the numbers of dwellings to increase by the most, but any dwelling anywhere on the valley floor will count.
I've got Mayor Barry and then Councillor Stallinger.
Thanks. Just, I suppose this question has just come to mind based on Councillor Mitchell's question, which is a very fair one at this point. Wellington Water have told us in our long-term plan that they could deliver up to 2.5 billion over 10 years, and we've got 1.5 billion, proposed. So I just wanting to dig a little bit deeper in understanding Wellington Water's position and saying that they don't have capacity to deliver this IAF investment.
Possibly I might be able to answer that, and that is to reiterate that this decision was made some time ago. So before these recent decisions have been made in terms of our investment in the LTP, but Wellington Water made it quite clear that it did not have the capacity to deliver these two specific projects, and so we have been organising ourselves to deliver them.
I suppose that, and I do recall, I think that being said as well, but is this a time to reassess that approach? I mean, or are we comfortable with the track that we're on?
We are pretty comfortable. We are setting ourselves up for getting our team ready to deliver, but we can have another conversation with the Wellington Water. We still have to go through the next stage, which is detailed design and procurement. And at that time, we can easily go back to Wellington Water and ask the question if they want to be helping us with design. They will be helping us with the design anyway, but just to see if they have the capacity then to take the lead role, we can go back and answer.
Yeah, I think what I've got in my mind is I look at Moa Point in Wellington City, which was, I think, $370 million project, which Wellington City decided to do separate from Wellington Water. And I know there has been some significant pressures on that project and, cost escalation and other issues. So, yeah, I think it's just maybe something we should just get a bit more comfort on as governors for pulling the trigger if we've still got the ability to have those conversations.
Okay.
Stallinger?
Hey, my question was very much along the lines of our mayor's. So perhaps just a bit of a follow-up point. I did note the officer's comment that Wellington Water's suppliers didn't have capacity, but if we're tendering for suppliers in the same market, I don't quite see how that makes sense. So I was wondering, by suppliers, was that more the project management side of the works rather than the construction? I do just have some underlying concerns as well that I might have this wrong, but my view is it's not our core business delivering these projects now, that we have essentially outsourced to Wellington Water. So I do feel a bit more risk involved in this approach. So yeah, that was my question. Where is the capacity constraint? Is it with the constructors, or is it in the management and oversight of the projects?
And I'll give my view, and I'll just see if Bruce have anything to add there. Understand that it's both. It's the people, but also they have a panel of construction companies who they use to deliver their program. And I understand that predominantly they do not have. They're fully committed to that Wellington Water work, and they don't have any spare capacity to deliver this work as well, including Wellington Water in-house resources to project manage and provide that input. Bruce, anything else to add on that?
I don't have anything else to add. I concur with that.
Can I ask, there's nothing in the recommendations that are in front of us that, you know, undermine our ability to go back to Wellington Water and explore these things?
Correct, Mr. Chair. It's the next stage. We can easily hand that back to Wellington Water if they wish to take this forward.
Okay. Councillors, any further questions? Deputy Mayor Lewis.
Thank you. Is there a timing relationship to the the funding that we're getting on this project?
Yes, we have got stage 1 commitment with Kaingiora at the moment, which is the end of June. And stage 2 and 3 are yet to be negotiated at that time.
Okay, the recommendations are on page 9. There's 6 of them. The main ones being that we're endorsing Stormwater Works option 1, option 1B to stage 2, and that we're endorsing the advancement of wastewater works option stage 2 to detailed design, and number 6, that we note the risks associated with these options will be best addressed in stage 2 once the design and cost maturity are sufficiently developed in collaboration with contractors. So I'll put those 6 Councillor Mayor Barry.
Can I just put an additional recommendation? I think that 7, which would read, based on the conversation, that requests officers to reassess the delivery of this project and whether it is best appropriately suited and with Hutt City Council or with Wellington Water. I think that report can then, that work can be done and come back if we've got the ability to still make that decision. Yep. Happy with that? Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
So I need to seek a seconder for that settlement. Councillor Mitchell has seconded it with number 7 included. Put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Oh, beg pardon. Did I give people a chance to make comment? No, I didn't. So, yes, this is important. So, Councillor Mitchell, then Councillor Tupou.
Yeah, I just did want to comment on that last point in particular. I mean, I agree to everything else that's proposed here, and we are in early stages of this project. And yeah, I just had a bit of concern, as I said, that we're bringing this project in-house and we do not have the same expertise that Wellington Water have. If in our discussions from them it turns out they still don't have capacity to deliver this project as a whole, I'd be very interested to see which parts of the project we could involve them with, and their expertise in particular, to peer review whatever's planned and, you know, check that it's delivered in an appropriate way. I think there are a couple of crucial steps in there for me. So yeah, glad that that recommendation's in there and will be followed up on. Thank you.
Councillor Tupou.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I must say I was a little bit confused when I saw that as well, that there's a sort of a division of works, if you like, between Hutt City and Wellington Water, and I was very much also the same wavelength, that I thought we were sort of leaving a lot of that water infrastructure works to Wellington Water moving forward. But I just want to thank the officers nonetheless on this work, and I think this is quite reassuring for the community and for residents to see that we're committed to investing in the infrastructure that will support these 3,500 homes in partnership with Kainga Water and others. So I think that's a great win for the community. Kia ora.
Yeah, well said, Councillor. Yeah, this is a very exciting project for the city. Yep. All right. This time I'm putting the 6 recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Declare that carried. Thanks. Item 6 is the proposed reviews of the local alcohol policy 2018 and the alcohol fees bylaw 2020, page 21 of your agenda. We've got Angela Gordon, Senior Policy Advisor, and Richard Hardy, Head of Strategy and Policy, to answer any questions. Cool. Angela, in your hands, anything that you want to highlight to us or add to your report?
Yeah, I'll just go over just a few details. So there's 2 alcohol-related reviews taking place this year that fall under this committee, and one's the local alcohol policy. That covers the licensing, trading hours, caps on off licenses, special licenses, and the alcohol fees bylaw, which covers things like annual fees, applications and licenses. Under development is also the control of alcohol in public places bylaw. This also requires a month-long public consultation period, but it falls under the responsibility of the Policy, Finance and Strategy Committee. As each one of these three pieces of work covers an aspect of alcohol regulation, we are seeking your approval today to consult on all of those at one time, rather than going out to the public 3 separate times. There's a timeline proposed in an appendix, I think it's on page 24, which outlines how we propose to combine these 3 consultations. It's meant to take place from the 26th of July to the 25th of August. Combining the 3 into one opportunity for people to engage with us provides for clearer messaging to the public. It avoids a public consultation fatigue and also provides us with some efficiency in the engagement processes and analysis of submissions. And we do realize that these are 3 very distinct pieces of work here, but we'll construct the public engagement process in a way that makes it very clear what people are commenting on. And that's all I had. Thanks.
Thank you, Angela. And this was already the subject of some discussion 2 days ago at the Policy, Finance and Strategy Committee, but councillors may have more questions. Councillor Mitchell's got another question.
It was discussed the other day. I'm very happy with what's proposed in terms of how we go about this. Just a couple of general questions about the 2 items that are coming through this committee. Local alcohol policies, and you may not have got this far down the track yet, but are you aware of any trends around the country, other councils that have done them recent times in terms of what councils are planning or what kind of challenges they're facing with local alcohol policies?
Well, there's been a lot of challenges prior to the legislation changes, but there haven't been a lot of reviews since those changes took place, because they just took place late last year. So we might be the first one.
And the other one, the alcohol fees bylaw, I took a read of our existing bylaw, which included fee increases in 2020, 2021 and 2022. Have our fees been static since that time, 2022, or are we able to?
They have remained the same, I believe.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Angela, we were the first in New Zealand to have a local alcohol policy from memory?
I'm not absolutely certain.
We were certainly amongst the first, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're probably amongst the first to review. Deputy Mayor Lewis?
Just a quick question around the distinctive different groups in the community, these policies that they're really targeted at. Will the information go to those distinctive groups? Like if the fees one, that would go to a group that is covered by that or uses fees?
In the engagement plan, I do think that there will be an aspect of proactive approach to contacting all licensees to let them know that this is happening and that they'll have an opportunity to submit their views.
Yeah, I think that would be very important. Okay, the recommendations are on page 21 of your agenda, that we're noting that both the bylaw and the policy are due for review, and that we must consult, and that we agree to run concurrent consultation in August 2024. We note that the control of alcohol in public places bylaw is also undergoing consultation in that month. That'll be looked after by Policy, Finance and Strategy Committee. We agree to run consultation processes for both the alcohol fees bylaw and local alcohol policy concurrently, so we have a coordinated and efficient process. And there are 2 more noting recommendations about the timing of the hearing and how we'll go about this process. So I'll move those recommendations. Do I have a second to Councillor Tupou? Thank you very much. Anyone wish to make comment? I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Declare that carried. Thank you. Three Waters update, page 25. Bruce Hodgins, a strategic advisor, will tell us if there's anything he wishes to add to his report.
Kia ora tātou. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I just have 2 or 3 items that I want to speak to. The first one is in terms of paragraph 7 and talking about the renewal in kilometres. And we've said that we're going to look at achieve around about 12. The latest update I have is that we've got to 11.3 at the end of April. So that 12 looks like it might be lifted a little bit higher than that. It might be nearer 13, in fact, that we'll get to. We've also done a little exercise, or asked Wellington Water to do an exercise to look at what the cost might be per kilometre, and for last year and this year. And so they've done a bit of a rough exercise and come back to us. What they've pointed out to us is that because costs fluctuate considerably between different types of renewals, that isn't really a particularly helpful measure. So what we've come up with for 22-23 was around $3.2 million per kilometre, and this year to date it's 3.13. But we need to look at the individual projects that are in there, and for instance, Barber Grove sewer main was in last year and a bit in this year, and that's really skewed the numbers quite considerably because it was such a huge cost per kilometre. And then you have things at the moment like we're renewing the water pipe in Howard Road, and the cost of that job compared to maybe renewing water pipe in Nainai is quite considerably much larger. So it's not necessarily a good way of measuring how we're doing and whether we're getting value for money. And I suppose I should point out in that respect that the statement of intent for Wellington Water this year has directed Wellington Water and the councils to work together on sorting out some really appropriate measures in terms of measuring that very thing. What are we getting? What the value for money we're getting for the investment? And so that work is started up already, but will occur over the next few months to determine the sorts of measures that we might have. What does it cost per leak? I'm still interested in getting some comparison in terms of the renewals, but we might need to refine that a little bit. The second thing I wanted to speak on was Jackson Street, because I've had an early draft. The final draft of the report on Jackson Street is due next week. And what they've done is they've looked at 5 different options in terms of how those works might occur, whether we do simultaneously or follow one after the other, or do 2 and leave one till later. What they're saying is that the recommended option at this stage, prior to going out and talking to the community, would be to do things simultaneously on a block-by-block basis. It would shut that street down, except for the pedestrian access. So pedestrian access would remain. It would just be the actual carriageway that would be closed off if we were to go down that path. It would mean longer shutdowns, because clearly if you're trying to work on 3 separate renewals in that space, it is going to take longer than just doing the stormwater. And it will save costs overall, but the next step is really to engage with JSP and PCB to really get some input as to how they're going to feel about that work happening. So at this stage, a comparison would be worst case scenario 7 weeks per block closing down for the stormwater on its own, but that would more than double if we were looking at doing the 3 together. So yeah, we'll be that report will be available next week sometime. When we look at the water leaks, just wanted to say that the latest report, which I think you've had, shows some good progress. We're down to 543 as the backlog. We're aiming for just over 100, so we're moving in the right direction. The bundling of of these jobs hasn't yet occurred, and it's basically going to start coming on play very shortly. So they're bundling jobs in certain areas and putting them through the CAR and the TMP process. Maybe that will start next week. And the final thing I would just want to raise, which isn't reported in here, is the State Highway 2 main wastewater pipe, because we have reported that to Audit and Risk and to the Hutt Valley Services Committee. And at Audit and Risk, the Mayor asked the question as to, if this is an issue, what else is there? Are we confident that we haven't got other issues like this? The answer to that is that we did, or Wellington Water did, undertake a comprehensive condition assessment of all its very high very high criticality assets, and that was carried out over 22-23. And when they did that work, they did 140 kilometres of pipe work throughout the city. Of that 140, about 50% had to be done from desktop and about 50% was done physically. And it was just because of the ability to actually get at it. What they did determine was that other parts of this particular pipe were in a poor condition that were near it, not in a very poor condition, and that as part of the river link, that one of the first things that they would need to do was to check physically this section, which has been done. So that has come up with this section being very poor. Neighbouring sections are poor. So Wellington Water is still going through that process of working out a plan to how it's going to renew that. That plan may be some weeks away still. And they have been working with NZTA regarding a plan to, if something untoward were to happen, how would they respond? What we can say since the information came out is that the further work that they've done shows that there's no cracking within the pipe. So imminent failure is not seen as being something that's likely. That's all I've to add.
Questions, councillors? Councillor Mitchell, then Deputy Mayor Lewis, then Councillor Stallinger.
Yeah, just a couple of quick ones, Bruce. With regards to Jackson Street, in the paper it said, and this has been said previously, that if we were doing all those works concurrently, construction would commence mid-2025. Is that still the time frame?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. And there's a section in here about water reform, local water done well. In paragraph 25 mentions that council within the Wellington region plus Horowhenua District Council have formally resolved to work together to develop a joint water services delivery plan and a future delivery model. With respect to the new government, this is what we were pursuing under the old government, right? It's no different to the entity that we were looking at in terms of membership.
In terms of membership, that may be the case, but I think there are some subtle differences between the two policies.
Yeah, between the policies, but so that's work that was already in progress. Is there a lot that can be carried over from what we had been planning already?
That is something that we are currently exploring. So the work has begun in earnest, and the officials have met in workshops over the last couple of weeks, and there's further workshops occurring. The chief executives have met, and tomorrow I believe there's a meeting with the AOG, the oversight group, which is going to be chaired by Kerry Prendergast. So that'll have its first meeting tomorrow. So it's moving rapidly, and yes, we are looking at what can be salvaged from the work that was undertaken at DIA that could move into this.
Deputy Mayor Lewis.
Thank you. Just on Jackson Street, first cab off the rank. How many blocks are you looking at if it's 7 weeks and then doubled if it's everything? How long will the whole street take to be done?
Worst case scenario was 3 years.
Okay, and then the transport link down that road, yeah, how does that get factored in? Is that another conversation?
That's another conversation. Yep.
Councillor Stellinger.
It's not a question, but I thought it might be helpful before you put the motion in, just to pass on some information in relation to Hutt Valley Services Committee, which has had some good discussions on this. The Services Committee's focus really came in hot on this topic following some public comment made around the beginning of the year, I think, Bruce. Very upset resident about the odour and so on. So we've received a lot of good information from the officers subsequent to that, and various procedures and steps have been taken to, as we've seen here, just to improve the situation, and we've been hearing about it for some time. So the Services Committee was very complimentary of the information they're now getting, and so that was a good outcome. Another point I just wanted to touch on was there's regular community meetings, and it was gracious of Councillor Dyer to attend the last one, and I think it was very helpful that there was a representative from our council and from the Services Committee there, given the concerns. And we now do receive, we being those on the Services Committee, the new copies of the newsletters and updates about what's going on. And probably for the rest of this year, we'll make sure there's a councillor attendee, probably myself, maybe others at those community meetings, just to really show an elected member's face to the issues which they take seriously, of course. Yep.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. That's really good to know, and I'm glad we'll have representatives a representative at that meeting. That's good information. Thank you. No further questions? All right, I move that we receive this report and note its contents. Looking for a seconder.
Sorry, Chair, I had a question.
Oh, go, Councillor Dyer.
Yeah, just wondering, Bruce, are you able to provide the committee an update? We got an update at the Shared Services Committee, just around the UV filters at Sleeview. It's not mentioned in your report, but I think it is quite an important issue, just to flag.
And the question is?
Are you able to provide an update about the UV filters to the committee?
I don't have an update, no, for this committee.
Okay, cool, thank you.
All right, looking for a seconder to note and receive this, Councillor Stellinger. Thank you. Anyone want to make further comment? All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Declare that carried. Thank you. Regulatory matters. Good full report in front of us. Tim Johnson, Head of Planning, and Richard Barton, Head of Building Control, are here to speak to the item, but I think we're going to kick off with Alison making a couple of one piece of good news, and also to introduce some new staff, I think.
Yes, it's my pleasure to actually introduce our new Head of Environmental Protection, Justin Roberts, who started with us a few weeks ago, and also our Head of Animal Services, Duncan Pratt. So I think this is the first regulatory meeting they've been to, and we're very pleased to have them on board, and at the moment they are pulling everything apart and putting it back together again. So I believe you have some questions about animal services. So Duncan has kindly turned up today to answer some questions, but please don't be too tough on him. He hasn't been here very long. So thank you. Okay, you can sit up front as well if you like, Justin, or join the others. Take your place at the top table.
Thank you, Alison.
Now, I also have some good news about the IANZ accreditation process. As you know, we have been through the assessment, and there were a number of GNCs, general non-compliances, some of which were fairly small and insignificant in my humble opinion, but some that were of major significance. And one of those is the performance against statutory timeframes. Now, obviously, that was a big challenge to the team. And I reported on it the other day, and I was promising that it would be better next time I spoke to you. And the good news is that we're up to 92.4%. And just an email we've received from IANZ just yesterday, based on the recent reporting and improvement of statutory compliance, I can confirm that this GNC is now resolved. So that's really excellent. Also, I'd just like to let you know about feedback we had in an earlier email from this Leslie Chen, who's the accreditation assessor who came to do the assessment. We have been submitting these the improvements over the last few months, and she said it is noted that there has been substantial improvement for this, and I congratulate you and the whole building team for the hard work and effort put in place to lift the compliance stats. So we're getting good feedback, but as we said the other day, it takes a while sometimes for good news to flow through. So thanks to the team.
Thanks, Alison, and welcome Justin and Duncan. Tim or Richard, anything you want to highlight to us in the report before I open it up for questions?
No, just happy to take questions. I'll just note the planning team's stats are also doing quite well as well. Just
They're very competitive.
Yeah, and same here as well. Happy to take questions. Thank you.
Right, councillors, questions? I'll kick things off. I've got, no, I'll start with the question, and it is to do with the animal control report. I had occasion to send in an elected member's request because I knew that our debate on the bird protection areas and dog bylaws around the Eastbourne were coming up, and I wanted to know, because we were asked at that hearing a number of times, it's all very well to bring in these bylaws, but who is actually going to enforce? And I wanted to know how much enforcement activity we do about in our dog exercise areas, whether dogs are on leash, off leash, etc., and how many infringement instant fines we had issued. And I was told there was a considerable number of hours put into patrolling those areas, hundreds of hours, but that we had issued very few, if any, instant fines, basically because of safety issues with our staff doing so. And so my question, Duncan, was around whether our officers wear body cameras, and how many, could you talk to us a little bit about the safety issues that they face?
Prior, we have done patrolling, I believe, and we were using a volunteer scheme, and that was pulled back due to the number of physical threats that they were encountering. We do have body-worn cameras in the process of being made operational. I believe there's just some legal hurdles and privacy to make them operational. And having had experience with body cameras, they can have a de-escalation effect to them, but in certain circumstances they can also not used well provocate people. The current patrolling is we react to complaints for reports of dogs on off leash or not complying with the correct restrictions. We're not currently resourced at the moment to do a large amount of proactive patrolling. Officers are monitoring areas as they go past, and if they see anything, then they will stop and enforce. But at the moment, we would be looking to investigate additional patrolling in the new year and seeing how we could make that work and whether that's how we would resource that.
Thank you. Question, Councillor Mitchell?
Yeah, just a related question. I don't know if you'll know the answer or anyone in the room, and I'm happy for it to come back to us, but we did have those changes to the dog control bylaw came through a committee last week, I think it was, this week. And after that meeting, I realised I wasn't sure when would they come into effect. those changes that are proposed around the eastern bays.
The last update, I thought it was about the 29th at the end of this month that they were to be ratified.
Thank you. Any further questions? Deputy Mayor Lewis.
Thank you. Just in relation to that new bylaw that's coming into place, and knowing that, it's known that, as you just said, you know, there's no patrols out, it's reactionary more than proactive. Would it be something that officers could consider to just be in an area of a new zone to make their presence, just so people know, hey, we are here, we can take questions, have things clarified, do it in a nice way? Just a suggestion for officers to consider.
Yes, I'm actively considering how, when we've got a substantial change to an area, that probably requires a short-term increased visibility, and we will just accommodate that under current resources. It's more ongoing patrolling that to sustain over a long period of time that we would have to resource differently, but with these bird protection areas, we would definitely have an increased presence when they are fully signed and implemented.
Actually, I've now managed to find the email I was referring to, and I'm mistaken in the amount of patrolling that is done. It's clearly explained the restrictions on that, but the figure that does leap out at me, year to date, we have received 569 complaints for dogs off leash or roaming. This 39.8% of all complaints received year to date, which is 1,400 in total. And of these complaints, 147 have been received for the harbour area, which includes the waterfront area. So, Councillor Tupou, have you got a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question around, does there tend to be a sort of a trend of non-compliance and or education sort of in the summer, the warmer months, summer period?
I probably don't have information down to the warmer months other than just anecdotal. Obviously, people are walking the animals more often, but we don't have the detail down to the number of complaints by area for summer versus other time of the months.
Thank you. Just, Mr. Chair, if you, just the sort of background to that was just looking at the statistics there, the data, just shows those spikes in the sort of, I don't know whether that's because people tend to be out and about a bit more or more aware when it's warm, but I was just wanting the sort of the story behind that, but that's good, thank you.
Sorry, I probably could add something. So anecdotally, from what I hear from my officers, is due to far more people working from home, where post-COVID we now have people regularly working from home and potentially interacting with people walking their dogs on a far more regular basis. And then, yeah, so potentially there are now more opportunities for people to interact with dogs.
Great, no further questions? I think you're getting off lightly, Tim, because we did have quite a discussion on building consents and resource consents at a committee 2 days ago, which was useful. Deputy Mayor Lewis has...
I'll just quit as a comment, actually, if that's all right. I just noticed on page 42 the notable code of compliance certificates that were issued, and I just want to, it's for the people who develop It's nice to see the Lothian Court apartments completed on Jackson Street. It was a long time coming, but the owner and the developer, whoever's done it, has done a fabulous job, so it's a great improvement.
Excellent. And while we're making comment, can I congratulate the team or the people that do our food verification checks? You know, and what a you know, 100% going right across the this year. Was slightly lower in March, but we're doing
No,
very well.
thank you for that. But I was actually informed today that the latest figure was actually wrong. It was 100%, not 99.
Oh, there we go. Excellent. Top notch. Okay, so the recommendation is that the committee receives and notes this information, which I'm happy to move. Looking for a seconder. Deputy Mayor Lewis, thank you. Anyone, any further comment? Put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, declare that carried. Thank you. We've done the retrospective approval, so we're now at the infrastructure and regulatory forward work program. Does any member have a question about the items or the timing of them? Can't see any questions. I move that the committee receives and notes that forward program for 2024 attached as Appendix 1. Seconder, please. Councillor Mitchell, thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, declare that carried. Questions? I have received no questions. So we're going to move into non-public now. There's one item to be discussed there, and so I move that the public be excluded from the following parts of the proceedings of this meeting, namely the National Land Transport Program verbal update. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Tupou, thank you. I'll put those motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, declare that carried. Thank you, officers, for your attendance. I declare the public part of the meeting closed at 3:12 p.m. We'll just have a short